Yeah, day in and day out. So, keeping up with having mentioned that he had violated election principles, Elections Conservative, Elections Canada, they might just want to change their name to Elections Conservative.
Yeah, yeah.
They have came out and said that they're not going to release the information that the Council of Canadians has asked for, pertaining to specifics as to the amount of calls, the frequency in ridings, and other information that they had asked for. And Yves Cote, who we've talked about on the show previously, who's the new commissioner,
Yep.
who used to be an underling of Rob Nichols, the justice minister.
Yep.
He says that this information would violate the confidentiality of the complainants and could jeopardize ongoing investigations.
Yeah, Cote filed what's called a Canada Evidence Act certificate claiming exemption from the court order. Okay? He claims that it would be against the public interest to release this information. Okay? He says it would pose a serious threat to public confidence in the fairness of the electoral process. Right? So,
and, doesn't he have it backwards though?
Exactly.
Threat.
His action is what is undermining the confidence in our electoral process. Okay, a political appointment. Okay, he is a political appointee to his post to investigate the alleged wrongdoings on the part of the party that appointed him to the position. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's starting to look like a cover-up, starting to look like a whitewash, and who can possibly be surprised?
Exactly.
You know,
when this all started too, it was a total of 700 complainants, and the Council of Canadians has taken up a side with 7 complainants in 7 different ridings, and now we know too that the total amount of complaints is now at 1,300 plus, nearly 1,400, and affecting 234 ridings.
Yep, it's pretty serious. And
holy crap.
I mean, if we knew anything about these investigations, you know, our confidence in the system might be undermined.
Exactly, and that seems to be
You know
one
what
of
really
the issues.
undermines my confidence is when the Conservative government disregards court orders. That that really undermines my confidence in not only the electoral process, but our Constitution.
Exactly, and we don't even know if Elections Canada has looked into anything outside of Guelph. I mean, and there's, it's really tough to follow this story because
I think,
it does.
Canadian, exactly, because they're stonewalling on every single level. You know,
Absolutely.
they're blocking any information we could possibly get about the investigation. So how do we know anything? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
On that note, the one thing that I wanted to say on a previous show and I had missed my chance was, I think we should throw up a link on our Facebook page and perhaps even on our actual radio show page where people can give some money to the Council of Canadians, because they are really the only hope that we have here to find anything out, and they need money to fund their court case and pay for their lawyers and their legal costs. And that's something that if anybody has any money to donate would probably be a really good cause.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%. And I just made a little note for myself to put something for the Council of Canadians on oppositionradio.com for what it's worth. You know, I do think that every little bit helps, and we have nothing else to do between now and when we get to vote the HarperCons out of office. I mean, the Council of Canadians is throwing up some of the best resistance right now to the tyranny.
Well, where would this story be if they weren't actually, willing to put the money out for these lawyers to bring this case to court?
Exactly.
I don't even know if we'd be hearing anything.
Well,
about
here's the thing: what they're in essence doing is hounding Elections Canada to do its job.
Exactly.
If they weren't doing that, there would be no story about this would have been already disappeared. As far as we can tell, how can we, and who can say otherwise, because they're controlling their information somewhat carefully.
Very carefully, it appears.
Yeah.
and they don't seem to be capable, whether they want to or not even. I mean, there's two issues here. There's one, that Elections Canada doesn't really have any teeth, it seems, to begin with, and B, to make sure that they can't even gum the government. You know, Harper's got his man right on the inside anyways. So, you know, it's pretty awful stuff.
It's terrible.
What do you say we move to another story and something else we follow quite a bit, and let's listen to what another conservative backbencher has to say.
Oh, you want me to pull up the clip?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's do that. Why don't you intro it for us?
Okay, well, let's see here.
Or I'll intro it for us.
You intro
The
it.
Conservative Party is intent on dialing back women's rights about 50 years. And here we have Mark Wara from Langley, BC, talking about the Conservative stealth attack on women's rights. If they figure out that they can define a human being as something that can exist in a womb, they can turn abortion into murder. This is their play. And here we go with Mark Wara.
Hi, Member of Parliament Mark Wara from beautiful Langley, British Columbia. You know, every day we get a lot of emails and phone calls from you about issues that are important to you. And one of those important issues is Member of Parliament Stephen Woodward's motion 312 to deal with the issue of the definition of human being. We have right now in Canada a 400-year-old definition that the human person does not become a human being until the point of complete birth. Does that meet scientific evidence? Should the definition of human being, should that begin maybe before complete birth? And which stage? What are the international standards? What are Canada's obligations to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child? So anyway, we need to take a new, fresh look at this. And who should be doing that? Well, it should be Parliament.
Yeah, Parliament is best suited for deciding these things for sure. I don't want some religious or Christian fundamentalist deciding what's going on in a woman's womb and claiming he's performing science on it. You know what I mean? He's bringing the...
It is just utterly ridiculous to hear a conservative even mention the word science. You know, it goes to show how they like to cherry pick different terms and then associate with something. This has nothing to do with science. This is entirely to do with religion.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, and one thing you have to admit is you do have to give the devil his due. The Conservatives are absolutely brilliant in how they satisfy their base without inflaming the ire of others.
That's a really good point too, because again, it's very unlikely that this will come to anything. But here we see again a backbencher just speaking his mind on a topic that apparently Stephen Harper has said has been put away. Now, he's not. Again, we've said it time and time again. These guys don't get a chance to say things like this. If he didn't get, we haven't heard anything about him being slapped on the wrist or given shit about this. So that just tells me that it was already okayed that he was allowed to talk about this, just like you say, to appease their base.
Absolutely. And one thing we know about conservative backbenchers is that they don't say a peep until Stephen Harper personally removes their muzzle.
Exactly. So there we go again. A, you got the conservatives still going on about abortion, and B, they're playing political games with it. I mean, it's all pretty shameful, really, when it comes down to it.
I mean, we've brought this up before. I'm sure we're not done with it. We do have to emphasize on occasion and put some light onto their tactics. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this is another one.
Absolutely. Well, it was good to hear from, where was that MP from?
Langley, BC. See, now Langley is right outside of Vancouver, so it's kind of their equivalent of the 905 belt, right? Very conservative. Vancouver itself is not conservative, just kind of like Toronto. Any urban setting tends to not really gel with the conservative vibe, right? But man, did they ever rule the suburbs. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Talk about ruling the suburbs. Apparently, the ridings in the 905 belt are, splitting and creating more conservative ridings, or are they?
Well, that's what it. Yeah, report has been issued on the proposals now for the riding boundary changes, and I believe 11 of the boundary changes in Ontario are going to affect the 905 belt.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this issue before, and it's a really information-rich issue, and I really think that there's a bigger story here, and that we got to keep on it. But I mean, just looking at my riding, Simcoe North, has been proposed. I mean, at this point, I guess we have to say it's a proposal, but they're not going to go with this proposal. I don't think that this proposal is going to get shot down anytime soon. But Simcoe North is going to lose the southwest portion of its riding, mostly Oro-Medonte, a very conservative portion of its riding.
Yeah.
Now, at first, that might sound really good for Simcoe North, but in general, it probably still looks like there's enough population base in Simcoe North to maintain a conservative position here. Just looking back on past numbers anyways, and that this new riding that's going to be created out of Barrie, which will now be divided into Barrie North and Barrie South, gets a nice big conservative heartland attached to it into Barrie, which is already a conservative held riding, now split into two. So I mean, it looks like they're reproducing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's happening in my riding, and of course this is just me, my perceptions, right? We're losing the northern part of our riding, which has what I perceive to be Liberal and NDP voters. Temagami, for example, is gone, and Temagami is, it's got a reputation as being an ecotourism kind of destination. A lot of hippies up there, a lot of environmentalists, that kind of stuff. So we're losing that, and keep in mind I'm in the closest riding in the country. 18 votes separated the Liberal and the Conservative last time. So we're losing hippie country, and we are gaining cottage country. We're taking a chunk of Tony Clement's riding, Parry Sound, Muskoka, or Muskoka Parry Sound.
Lovely, a lot of conservative votes there.
There was another riding that was more than 50% conservative, so we're gaining a chunk of that highly conservative area, and we're losing a chunk of progressive area. And I agree with you, we have to follow this story. There is something here. I can't see the Conservatives controlling this process and not using it to benefit themselves. And I haven't personally seen or heard of any example of any riding that got split off in a way that people would honestly perceive it to be to the disadvantage of the Conservatives.
No, I haven't heard anything like that either. And I mean, it's obviously there's so much data to go through that it'll probably take a little bit of time before we get a good thorough overview by somebody.
Yeah.
But I mean, the information's all out there, and it's available for people to look at. We'll throw up a link on our opposition r.adio.
Yeah, man. I just want to bring up.
Page.
Yeah, I just want to bring up one thing quick here on this issue.
Sure.
I know this has been the case in other ridings too, what people I've talked to. In the last, about 6 months, I had been pelted with 3 different mailouts from my MP asking me about a certain issue, what party I think has the best ideas for this issue, and then asking my email address, my ad, and my mailing address, and my phone number, and all this other jazz, right? So, leading up to this riding redistribution, the Conservatives made a specific effort to figure out who thought what, favored what party in what geographic regions. They were really nailing their demographic maps before doing this redistribution. Are these two items connected? I don't know. Is it a conspiracy fantasy, or is it a conspiracy theory that bears some sort of scrutiny and investigation?
Because it has to be looked into. Something that we do know is we know that every riding association is entitled to at the end of an election, they actually can look at the various polls and they can see whose names are crossed off. They can see who's voted, who hasn't voted. They know where their polls are that they win,